Now let's see this third category where we will see how to use Cognito OAuth flow with React single page application on S3 bucket and Node.js on backend or any Node.js on EC2 or any other kind of server. Workflow for this will be something like this. Here our React application is hosted on S3 bucket and Node.js is hosted on EC2, and this are basically same EC2 server. And here we have Cognito user pool. So what will happen when we click login button on React application, API call will happen to Node.js server, and Node.js server will return a proper URL to where to go, and that URL will be the URL of Cognito managed login page. Then redirection will happen from React to Cognito login page, and their authentication will be done by Cognito. Upon successful authentication, again Cognito will redirect to callback URL, which will be the URL of React client. And in this callback URL, as usual, it will pass authorization code and state parameter. Then React will call token endpoint of node application with authorization code and state parameter. And also if there is pixie, then it will already be stored in cookie. Then Node.js will use pixie state parameter, and when we say pixie, we are talking about code verifier. So Node.js will use code verifier, state parameter, and client secret with authorization code to call token endpoint of Cognito. And then Cognito will return JWT tokens to Node.js, and Node.js will return back to the client, maybe in form of cookie. So this is the flow, and code for this is for this setup can be found in GitHub under Cognito course repo, and folder name is 3SPA React SPA backend Node.js. Let's run this setup locally. So in our local setup, localhost 5173 will be equivalent to S3 bucket, and this Cognito, this Node.js will be equal to localhost 3000. So I will just copy paste code like Lego blocks, and we will understand parallelly. But before that, let's go to user pools and create a new user pool. This time we will choose traditional app, means private client with client secret. We need email and email for login and sign up. And here we need callback URL. So callback URL will be URL of client where it will be where Cognito will redirect. So it will be S3 URL, but S3 or CloudFront URL. But in this case, I will pass React. So localhost 5173 slash, I will create auth route. So it will go to localhost 5173 auth, and let's create it. We will ignore this code and go to here. I will rename it to, let's call React plus this. Now let's go to the VS Code and create new folder. Let's call it React with Node.js, and inside this I will create two folders, frontend, or let's not create frontend, let's create backend folder, and I will go to cd. Okay, I'm inside it from folder, so cd react, and here I will create a new React application. So let's call it frontend. We need React. While it's installing, let's go here and under main.js, I will copy the code and update it. So it's almost same, but now I have added React router DOM. I need to install it as well. VMI. Okay. So I'm using React router DOM and created two routes, home route and auth route for callback URL. And now I need to create this new component, which is auth.jsx. And for auth.jsx, let's make changes in app.jsx. So app.jsx, I will go and copy. So this is app.jsx. What we have here is we have this API URL which we will create, and then we have one state where we will store data, and in rendering we are showing one section and two buttons. So on click of fetch to do button, we will call to dos, and if we get 401, then we will show here that user is not authorized. So what we are doing, if we get some to do, we are updating the state, else we are updating this state with this message. And on click of login, we are calling this login function, and this login function will fetch the login URL from Node.js. If we see flow chart, this step, it will fetch the login URL, and after that it will redirect to that URL. Now we need env file. So dot env, and what is name of variable? It's white API URL. So API URL in our case is http localhost 3000, which is API, which is URL of our Node.js server. And also here in all the API calls which we are making in the fetch, we are making sure to add credentials as true. So with the API calls, whatever cookies are there, they will also go, because we are making cross origin call from one host to another host. That's why normally cookies go automatically as part of header, but if we are making cross origin call, then we have to add this extra configuration or parameter here in fetch. Now let's add code in auth.js. So auth.js will do that token fetching part. It will call Node.js with authorization code and try to fetch the tokens. So here we have one use effect hook, and in this use effect hook, we are reading from search bar, we are reading code and state parameters, and then we are with localhost 3000, we are appending token, we are appending code as authorization code and state as state, and here also we are saying credentials as include. And after making this call, if response is successful, then we are redirecting to login page, and from backend side we will make sure that cookies for ID and access token are stored in the browser. For front end, this is it. It's done. Let's run it and see if it's working properly. So npm run dev. here. If I go to network, I do login call. Here in response, it should be 401. Okay, it should not be 401 because right now backend is not running, so it will do nothing. But we are seeing something here. And auth route, if we go here, it will show authenticating, but calls will not be successful. Now let's start. For frontend we are done. Let's go to backend and make changes there. So I will create one more terminal and go to React folder and then backend. And here, first thing we will do is that npm init, or better, I will copy package.json from the GitHub and we will do npm I. So it will install all dependencies also. In backend, package.json and paste it. So dependencies which we are using is cookie parser, cause cookie parser to pass the cookies. For we will pass access token, id token and refresh token. Also we will use signed cookies to pass pixie code verifier and state value. And express web server, JSON web token we will use for JSON web token, JWT token verification and to decode it. And OpenID client is for construction of URL and calling token endpoint, similar to last example which traditional web application, but this time we are using latest version of OpenID client. Let's do npm I. For that, let's save it and do npm I till all libraries are getting installed. Let's create server.js, which will be our main entry point. And in server.js, I will first import all, even before starting with server.js, I will create env file. So .env, and for this .env file, in GitHub it's called .env.example. I have to update these values. So to sign cookies, to create signed cookies, we need some random string as password for signed cookies. Region, it's AP South 1. For you, it might be different. Cognito user pool ID. So the new Cognito user pool that we created, this is user pool ID, and I will update here. Client ID, the private client which got created. Here we have client ID and client secret. So here we have client secret. I will delete all these user pools after this demo, so it's fine, but these values should not be shared with anyone. And Cognito callback URL, so this should be the callback URL of frontend, I mean S3 bucket. Done. Now let's go back to server.js and copy code for it. Yes. So what we are doing here is, first we are importing environment variables using .env, and then we are importing these dependencies, express, cookie parser, cause, and client from OpenID client. And here we are initializing the server, and as part of initialize server, we are just passing Cognito specific details like client ID, client secret, server URL, and also then we are calling client.discovery to create the config. And another thing which we are doing is that we are fetching the PEM key, we are fetching the JWKS key to verify the access token. This to this point we will come at the end, but for now this part is important to understand that we are initializing the OpenID client, and once it's done, then we are also using cause plugin to cause extension to allow our this localhost 5173, that is React client, and credentials. Here I have set credentials allow as true, otherwise it will not work in front end. Whatever we have done, that will not work. So after that, we are using cookie parser middleware, and it will take care of reading cookies. And also we are using this cookie secret, which we will use for creating signed cookies. After that, we have mainly 1, 2, and 3 routes, and then start of the server on port 3000. So login and token routes are unauthenticated, and to-dos route is authenticated. That part we will handle as part of auth middleware, middleware, and that I will create. So it's auth middleware.js, and here's what we are doing is that we are creating exclude auth URL to URL which we do not want any authentication to happen, because login and token are we can't access them if we make them authenticated. And then we are checking if this set have this request dot path, then call next, and it will basically bypass this middleware. Else we will check validity of access token, and if it's valid, then we will bypass to next route, that is to whatever routes to do, and if we want more routes, it will come here. Else we will just send, if token is not valid, if we will send unauthenticated. And this part, this signing key and verify JWT, we will come later. Let's see login code for login route and token route. So we know that login route creates authorizer endpoint and sends back to client. So what we are doing here, even before starting creating the route, we are creating pixie variables, which is code verifier. So first we created code verifier, and then calculated its hash and called it code challenge, and then we created one more random value and called it state. Now as part of parameter, we are passing this code challenge, and challenge method is s256 and state. And also we are passing a redirect URI, which is if I see redirect UI, which is this one, or wait, Cognito callback URI. Yeah, redirect URI is Cognito callback URI, which is this one. Now after having all parameters, we have already initiated config at init server function. So what we can do, we can call client.build authorizer URL and pass these parameters, and it will create a big URL out of that, big object with URL and all those details, code, search, all parameters. So out of that we took href parameter from that object, and then we will return it as JSON. And if I see in front end, what we are doing for login, we are taking that data.cognito login URL and just changing the window URL there. Apart from sending this URL, these two important things which we are doing are, we are creating two cookies, state and code verifier, and we are keeping them as signed and HTTP only cookies, so client code can't access them. And since they are signed, no one can make sense of them, what it actually means, because these are signed using this key, and until this key is secure, these cookies are also secured. They will be visible on browser, but we will not be able to understand them. And why we are doing it, reason is that in last example with traditional apps, we saw that we were maintaining sessions at server side, but since here there is no session at server side, we need some mechanism to store code verifier and state, because we need later to call token endpoint. And as we know, here it's stateless, without session. HTTP protocol is stateless. There will be no information back and forth. That's why when client makes this login call, we send URL, and also we send these two cookies. After that, redirection to Cognito page will happen, login will happen, and callback page will load, which is this auth page, and this auth page will call token endpoint with state and code. So for that we have this route. In this route, uh, first, like normal cookies we read as request.cookies, but signed cookies we read as request.signed cookies, and it's nothing new. It's just part of Node.js Express. And after that, we are doing this client.authorization code grant, and this part is fetching the all tokens ID and represent access token. So in this we are passing this config object and get current URL, and this state is passed as expected state, and this code verifier is just pixie code verifier, and this get current URL I need to create this function under utils, and but this get current URL will be the URL of frontend with code and state parameter. So let's create it also. I will create utils.js and paste the code so we can see it. utils.js here. So this current URL will like Cognito frontend URL, S3 frontend URL, and then from request we are taking the search queries and appending it, and then returning it as URL here. And after all is done, since we do not need these cookies anymore, we will clear these cookies. We are sending the tokens, but it's optional if required, else not. We are creating cookie for access and refresh token as HTTP and signed, because frontend is not supposed to use this. For ID tokens, we are creating this cookie which is not HTTP only, and not signed also, so that if we want some user info, we can read from this token and show it. Also, if we want here only as part of this API only, we can make all cookie sets signed and HTTP, and instead of returning token, we can return necessary data, whatever we want to show in front end. That's also one approach. And to do routes, we will come to it later. So we saw token endpoint, we saw login endpoint. Now, once more, let's go to authorizer, auth middleware endpoint. And in this code, we are using access token for authentication, and we are reading access token from signed cookie, because we created signed cookie we just saw. And then we are calling this verify JWT function. So how JWT verification happens, let's see that to make things clear. So what happens? Cognito, we know that Cognito exposed one URL where it provides all the keys which are used to create the token, and the key which we can fetch the keys from there, and then we can use crypto library of Node.js to create to convert that JWKS key into PEM format, because we need it in PEM format for JWT verification. And once we have that public key in PEM format, we can verify JWT signature. So if I go inside this function, we are doing okay. Before that, from where we are getting this key, let's see that. So I will go to here, and here we have token signing key URL provided at overview page of user pool. If I hit this page, we see this. Okay, so it's a list, and this list contains two objects, this one and this one. Now if you see your token, and in that token you can see which key ID, like for ID token this key always will be used, and for access token this key will be always used. How we know that? If we get the token and we inspect it in jwt.io, we can see this key ID here. So what we are doing here, and also these keys do not change very frequently. So what we are doing here is that as part of server, as part of init server function here, we are calling get Cognito JWT public key and passing this URL here, this URL in this function, and inside this function we are fetching the details, not this one, inside this function get Cognito For some reason, wait, utils.js, and the function is here and it's exported also. I guess there is some typo. It says utils.js, folder name is also same. Okay, now it's open. So here, if I click on this, now it's going to code. So here we are first facing response from that endpoint which I showed. After that, we are just doing response.json, and from that response, we are taking the first item, not zeroth item, because that is for ID token. The first item in that list is JWK key for access token. So we take that key and then use this node crypto library and create public key function, and this function will format our JWK key in PEM format, and then we will return it. So we return it here, and then we are storing it as global variable in this server. Since it is stored as global variable in auth middleware, we can easily access it, and we pass when we see that this is the route which we need to authenticate. We take access token from signed cookie, and then we pass that access token and that key to JWT, verify JWT function, which is also part of util, but for some reason it's not opening. Okay, I will open it from here, and here verify JWT, and this verify JWT will take token, cookie, and if it's proper, then it will return true, else if there is some error, it will return false, and it will verify signature, and also it will verify expiry of the token. So if token is expired, that is also verified inside this verify JWT, and this verify JWT is using JSON web token library. So this is the whole flow. Hope it made sense. Now let's run it and see it how it's working. I will uncomment these lines so that we can see something in console if we want to see. Login, I guess somewhere here also we have log. Yeah, okay. Now let's start both and see if it starts or not. So node server.js, it's working. And see, as soon as server is started on port number 3000, first thing it did is that it fetched keys, this one and this one, and then we took this object and converted into PEM key, which looks something like this. And how we know is that you can create one ID token, inspect it in jwt.io, and match this key ID. Another thing is that for now I am assuming that till the life of this server this key will not change, but if you want, you can implement some kind of expiry mechanism. After that, after every 5 or 10 minutes, it fetch it again if the duration is passed. Some kind of expiry mechanism we can do and use it. So Frontend is running, Backend is also running. Now let's go here and see the flow. I will refresh. First thing is I will hit fetch to dos, and I got 401 because it's not token or login, and in our cookies there is nothing. Whatever is here, I will delete it. I don't know how it came, but let's delete it. Maybe from previous examples. So fetch to dos will yield nothing. It will say unauthenticated. Now if I hit login button, it sent us to login page of Cognito, and since it quickly redirected, we missed. What happened after clicking on this login page is that under storage we got these two new cookies, and these are not actual values, these are encrypted by that cookie key, so no one can view it. Also, if someone tries to alter or play with it, that will not work, because then basically server will discard it, and then authentication flow will fail. Now let's go and create account before doing login. It will send OTP. We'll close this one to avoid confusion. Confirm account. Now authentication is done, and again it very quickly happened. But what happened is that it came to auth endpoint, auth route of front end, and probably this one, not this one. Okay. I think not able to see here, but it came to auth route, and under auth route, from the parameters we took code and state variable and sent it to backend. In backend we can see something. So here we can see that this is let's see, log. It might be coming from token function, token route. So here we have logged state. So this is state value. We can see that it's completely different from cookie. And then we have code verifier, and then we have this current URL, which is URL of the auth route of frontend. And then we pass it and return a token. So by now, if we see cookie, in cookie we should be able to see access and ID token. Here we can see access and ID token, and refresh and access are HTTP only, and this one is not HTTP only, means it can be read from client code, client JavaScript. Now let's clear it, and now if we make call to fetch to dos, it failed for some reason. Let's see why it failed. Cannot read properties of undefined includes in server.js, line number 94. Okay, looks like there is some bug. Line number 94. Okay. Okay, I'm missing a string literal here. I will add. I'm missing optional chaining, so I will add it here. Restart it. We have valid tokens, so it will no need to log in. I will fetch to dos again, and it worked. We got response as task 1, task 2, task 3. So this is the flow. Now we did authentication. Now suppose if we want to use groups feature of Cognito user pool to do authorization also, like if some user is part of admin group, then grant them admin privileges and show them some more response. So suppose for normal user we should be show task 1, task 2, task 3, but for admin user we show them admin task 1, admin task 2, and admin task 3. So let's do that also. I will go to user pool, under my users, under my groups I will create new group, and let's call it admin, and then users, and this user. Here I'm using Cognito groups feature to do this thing, to classify or to do authorization, but we can also use this user attributes. So instead of adding user in the group, we can add some attribute which tells that this user is admin. Like we can add one more attribute as is admin equals to true. So there are multiple ways to do it. For now I will just attach this, add this user in the admin group, and I will go to my app and open jwt.io. So if I go to storage and cookie and ID token, right now here we will not see any group parameter in old token. Now let's log in again and get new tokens. Again, it not took me to Cognito page because Cognito page have the cookies which are directly redirecting me to auth page, which because of which I do not have to log in. So let's delete those cookies. So it take their storage cookies. These are the cookies. Because of them, it's not taking us to login page. Now it will take here. Bring here and login. Now I will copy the ID token, and this time we will have Cognito group information here, and the KID which I was talking about, here we can see in the header, we can see this is the KID, and this KID will be matching with this one for ID token, and for access token this will be the KID that we are using in backend. And so what will happen now in access token, we know that access token payload is just JSON encoded JSON value converted into string and then encoded into base 64. So what we will do, we can use JSON dot JWT, means we can use this JSON web token library, and it provides JWT.decode functionality also. But here I just wanted to show you that it's just base 64 encoded value and we can use it directly also. That's why I did it like this. So what we will do, we will first do buffer.from, and from here to here till here we are converting base 64 to string, and then base 64 value to normal string, and then we are passing that to JSON, so it becomes normal JSON value and readable like JSON. And then from that JSON we are reading Cognito groups. So here if we see, we have this Cognito groups object in this payload, and inside this payload we are checking if this includes admin. If it includes admin, then it will be admin user, and for admin users we will return admin to dos instead of normal to dos. Now let's go to our front end and let's fetch, and it should return admin to dos. Here we go, we got admin to dos, admin 1, admin 2, admin 3. So now we are done with all three ways to use OAuth flow of Cognito. Here is assignment for you before we move on to next section. So in auth middleware, we are checking our access token, and if access token is valid, then we are calling next. If access token is not valid, then we are sending 401 response. So what you can try to do here is that you can try to use refresh token to use refresh token grant flow and get new pair of ID and access token and use them. So what will be benefit is that right now after expiry of access token, we are asking user to log in again quickly. But if we do that, then the duration between user have to log in will be maximized.